Alright, CNT120, Chapter 4, we're moving on to IP, Internet Protocol. Now, we got a little preview of this in Chapter 3, because we did a bunch of time on IP version 4 and IP version 6 addresses. So this is kind of a add-on to what we talked about before. IP is at layer 3 here, our network layer. And this is where I always thought of this when I was learning this. This is where routers operate. Routers are reading IP addresses and making decisions on where to send that IP packet based on what the IP address is. So the routers and IP are all here at this network layer. That's kind of how I kept all that tuned in my brain. IP operates at the network layer, specifies where data should be sent to be delivered with your source and destination IP address in the header. This enables TCP/IP to internetwork. So in other words, go from network to network to network. Traverse more than one LAN segment, more than one type of network through a router. As I have series of routers, I can literally move data from, Harrisburg campus to the main router to the Lancaster campus to another computer there. If I think of, Hack's network, if you will. This is what's allowing that. IP is an unreliable connectionless protocol, meaning it's not setting up any path ahead of time. It's not guaranteeing any delivering and everything. It's not accounting for anything. It's literally just a specific addressing manner that all the devices know how to read and move it from place to place. So it's kind of like, mailing a letter. If I take an envelope and put the addressing and everything on correctly and put it in the mailbox, everybody that deals with that, the postal carrier that picks it up, the person in the postal office that's sorting the mail knows where to put it. The carrier at the receiving end knows to sort it to your mailbox. The carrier picks it out of that box, knows to deliver it to your house. Okay, IP is that kind of thing. If anything is needs reliability, IP is going to rely on TCP to make sure it gets numbered, put in order, and delivered. So if reliability is needed, it's going to rely on TCP on the layer above it to do that. That's where, kind of like, hey, IP is like, I don't need to do that because if that needs to happen, my buddy upstairs, TCP, will make sure that gets done for me. Remember, there are two types of addressing, IP4 and IP6. IP4 32-bit address, IP6 128-bit address. Remember those from back in Chapter 3. And don't forget your number conversions as well. If I look at an IP4 packet, here is all my header fields. Here's all my header fields, including my addressing here in the middle. As I look down through these, the version field lets us know whether it's an IP version 4, IP version 6 information inside, if you will. If you think about that, when the bits arrive at the destination, it needs to know, do I count 32 bits for the address or 128 bits for the address? So it's letting you know that. Header length, how long is the header, so we know where the data begins, if you will. Diff-serve, this gets used for kind of like priority, if you will. What sort of things go in priority order before another packet? Maybe voice and video is going to go first. Total length, so we know when this packet ends and the next kind of thing, the next chunk of data on the line begins. If the IP packet needs to get broken into pieces, these fields get used. If this IP packet gets broken into pieces to ship it across the network, the identification, all those pieces get the same identifier on. Like, hey, I belong with that one, I belong with that, and all three of us belong together. They all have the same identifier, so they know to be put back together. The flags will let it know it is broken in pieces, so look for pieces. And the flag offset is there to make sure they get put back in the right order. Oops, get my little pointer thing out of the way. The flag offset down there is there to make sure all the byte packets of all those pieces get put back in the right order. And this usually indicates by byte where is that in sequence. That's the flag offset as well right there. TTL, that is basically your expiration date, time, if you will. As this traverses through the network, that number decreases as it goes. When it reaches 0, it's basically considered, hey, this did not reach its destination. Something's wrong. Let's throw it out. Let's expire it. That way it's not clogging up the network. Protocol lets us know what protocol is encapsulated inside. Is there TCP in here? Is there UDP in here? Is there something else like ICMP in here? So we know what's inside. Almost like putting a sticker on a box saying fragile or heavy or corrosive, that kind of thing. This is letting us know what protocol is inside this IP packet. All right, checksum, header checksum. This is a quick, before you put a letter in the mailbox, you look at it, make sure it looks like everything's all right before you put it in. That's what this is. We have our source and destination IP addresses. Where is it coming from? Where is it going? And then we finally do have the data, which would be the upper layer data, whether it be TCP inside or something like ICMP inside. Here is a sample IP packet captured from Wireshark, but you know me, we're going to do the real thing. This is a breakdown of that. Let's look at the real thing. So I'm going to go back to my Wireshark, and I could look at one of these, but let's do a new one. Let's capture a new session here. I'm going to capture a new session, and I'm going to do just a simple ping out to Google, and I'll capture that. So that ping going out to Google, let's come over here, let's stop our capture, and I'm going to look for one of those ICMP packets, and there it is. There's a request going from me out to Google and then Google back to me. So let's take that right here and let's look at that in this window. Here's that ICMP data. We'll focus on that a little bit later. Let's look at the IP4 header, IP version 4 header, and let's open that up. These should be all the fields we just got done looking at. Here's the version field indicating it's IP version 4. Here's the header length. How long is this? Here's those diff service fields that gets used for like priority order. Okay. Here's the total length of it. Here's the ID flag, and in here the frag offset. Those all get used if this got fragmented for any reason, broken into pieces. And that would happen if you're going across a link that's highly congested or a low bandwidth. It might take larger IP packets and break them into pieces so it fits across. Almost like, taking a big tractor trailer and breaking it into smaller ones so it can get through a tunnel. That kind of idea. So all those would get labeled with the same identifier. The flags would kick in saying, hey, it is fragmented, and the frag offset would start indicating this is, byte 1, this is byte 100, this is byte 1000, so it knows how to put them back in order. There's the TTL. That's your kind of like your expiration date. That's going to decrease down as it moves through the network. It's letting us know ICMP is inside. Here's the source address coming from 10.00.51 and the destination 142.250, etc. There is our IP header and our IP header fields, and it just so happened to be from ping that we did. We did a ping, so here's the ICMP information that we used to look at that IP header, if you will. So there's IP and specifically IP4. Well, let's take a peek at IP version 6. IP version 6 is very much the same as far as its purpose. It's just it has larger address fields, because with IP version 6 we have 128-bit addresses, and this was to address the shortage we had with our IP version 4 32-bit addresses. So IP version 6 is the newer way of numbering and dealing with things. So we have a lot more bits, so we have a lot more numbers to deal with. So here are my header fields. As we see, the source address is a lot larger bits, and destination is a lot larger bits. Well, if I take a look here, version again indicates whether it's IP version 4, IP version 6. Your traffic class, this is kind of like your priority, like we had our diff serve in IP4. Here is the this is flow information. If it belongs to a flow of things, is this this also helps with quality assurance or prioritization. If this belongs in a flow of video data, if you will, or audio data. Payload length, how long is this thing, so it knows when this one ends and the next one begins. Next header, what's inside, what protocol is inside, TCP, UDP, etc. Hop limit, that was kind of like our TTL from before, expiration if you will. and then the source and destination addresses. All right. Here's a sample from packet capture, if you will. And ideally, I would do a ping across, my internet connection, if you will. But where I'm sitting now on my connection at home, my internet service provider does not use IP version 6. So I'm not going to be able to ping out across to Google to do a capture here. However, Mr. Brown, Mr. Brown. Here's a packet tracer that I have. This is a simulation of an IP version 6 routing lab we do with our 125 class. So here's the Harrisburg site, here's the Philadelphia site. We have some workstations at each. And these are actually configured with, if I hold my pointer over, if I take a look, there is no IP version 4 address assigned, but if I look towards the middle there, I see there's an IP version 6 address assigned. And same thing over here, if I hold pointer over here, you'll see IP version 6 address assigned, but no IP4. Yeah, this whole network is set up for IP version 6 routing in my network. If I take a look at the routers there, I'll see that there's IP version 6 addresses set, but no IP version 4. So let's, and we have a sniffer up here. So I have my sniffer in place, and I have this set up to capture ICMP version 6, but nothing else. So let's generate a ping through here and take a look at, those packets, if you will. So I'm going to grab the address off this PC right here. I just grabbed it off this one right here. I'm going to go to this PC over here on the left. I'll go to my desktop, my command prompt, and I'm going to do ping, and I'm going to paste the address in of that computer. And there's a ping across my IP version 6 network to that computer. Well, yeah, it's good. Okay, we did that back in Chapter 3, but let's look a little closer now. I'm going to open up my sniffer. Let's look at my IP version 6 packet that I have here. Let's make this larger. And now let's look at these header fields. Here's my Ethernet header. Here's my IP6 header. There's the version, my version 6. Here's my traffic control flow label. Here's my next header. So that's going to let me know that this is actually ICMP. Hop limit 127. And then here's my source address from the AAA computer, if you will, over to the AAC computer over there. So there's my header fields and then the data inside. So less header fields than IP4, but there's all the header fields we read about with IP version 6. And as things migrate more to IP version 6, this will become more standard, if you will. Now, the next one we have in here is ICMP. Well, the nice part is, since I was looking at IP headers, with IP4 we did a ping, and over here in IP6 we did a ping. So we can take a minute and look at that while we're here. Well, ICMP, Internet Control Message Protocol, this is a protocol designed to report information back. Did it get there? Did it not? So as we were looking at our pings earlier, here was my ping. This is a reply from. That's a successful reply, meaning I sent data there and I got a reply back. So with IP4, there's my successful. And if I look at my Wireshark here, here's my ICMP packet right there. Here was the echo request that I sent. And if I look at the data down here, there's my data. And if I look actually at the ASCII version, it's basically sending, kind of the alphabet, if you will, when we send our ping. So there is letting me know that it got there successfully. Okay. Here's our ICMP packets. As we look, there's really not much header fields there, just enough to send it. With ICMP version 6, okay, I'm going to jump over to my packet tracer here. Okay, here was my packet tracer. There was my ICMP version 6 packet. If I scroll down here, here's my ICMP version 6 header fields. It's very much the same as IP version 4. Letting me know what type of ICMP message, checksum, identifier, sequence number, and then we have our data. Okay, it's very much the same. And this is there to let me know, did something reach or did it not? And the did it not, the destination reachable, can be helpful with troubleshooting. And as we look at trace later on, trace is going to take advantage of the messaging of ICMP to let us know the path it's taking from A to B. So there's ICMP, Internet Control Message Protocol.